All right, welcome to the Leader Mentality Show with Rob Clemens. We are in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, as usual, on a beautiful, almost spring-like day. It's been raining most of the day, but the sun just came out, so we're feeling really good, and we're ready to talk about some good information, as usual with our viewers, so welcome to the show. A lot of you who are running businesses, heck, even if you're not running a business, maybe you're just at home, you've had that unfortunate thing where you get onto your computer and something has not gone right. It could be that you've gotten some sort of a spam that turned out to be a malignant type of a thing. It could be that you have become a part of a hoax. There's so many things that can happen in the world of computers. And as we get more and more advanced in society, there's more and more chances that you could be vulnerable. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about what you need to know as a person in 2024 working on computers. We're also going to talk a little bit about this creative world of AI and what it can do for you and your business. So I have an expert on the show today, as usual. His name is Ryan Foultz, and he is the owner of PCRX Computers. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
All right, man. Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Man,
I'm super excited to be here.
Man, well, it's super good to have you because we have known each other for a little while. We've been running some of the same circuits.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've actually heard you talk, but I've heard you talk at the Home Builders Association meetings. Mm-hmm. I've heard you actually have your own show that you're going to do. And I guess, spoiler alert, I think I'm going to be on that thing soon here.
Yeah, a couple weeks.
So I'm pretty excited to have you. But Ryan, what all have you been up to, man?
Oh, it's just everything. You know, we're trying to grow a business, but we're also trying to help people. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of what it's about and what I stand for as a person. And as I want to be a leader in the community, and I want to help business owners get from that ground zero, you know, to a point where you know, they're prospering.
This is more for you. It's more than just your business, PCRX, and helping people. It sounds like to me you want to actually be sort of a mentor to see other businesses succeed.
Absolutely. If I could only do that, that would be great.
Right,
but,
right.
You know, you still got to make a living, and you still have
money.
to do things.
That's funny. I mean, how long has your business been doing what you've been doing?
Since 2007.
So you guys have been in it for a long time.
A long time.
What has changed the most since 2007 to 2024?
Cell phones.
Cell phones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember like the Nokias and the flip phones?
Oh, the flip phones.
And the ones that you couldn't break for all those years.
Right, right.
And now all of a sudden you're breaking screens all the time.
Oh man, all you got to do, and for all you need a fancy case nowadays, because if your smartphone so much as barely taps the concrete, that sucker's cracked.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now I have one, as you know, I've been in the construction business as well for a lot of my life. You know, I do Leader Mentality. We also still do construction and real estate. Do you remember these were popular in the construction industry for about, I don't know, 2 years, but they were these phones that had a little walkie-talkie on them. So you could talk on your cell phone, but you could also do a little, this is Rob, where are you at? What's your 20?
Yeah, those were super cool, the Motorola's. And I believe it was Sprint that had those.
I think it might have been Sprint, but I'll tell you, they were the rage in the industry. Every single company, and Nextel, it was Nextel that did these, but every single company in construction had them. Everybody had to have them. And I don't know quite why they died out, but I know from my purpose why they died out. Because you'd be in the middle of doing a beautiful customer presentation, and then and if you've ever been in the contracting industry, these guys are not necessarily schoolboys.
Yeah, right.
They're using language that might be, some might say salty. I don't know, but anyway, so I always remember I'd have to like dial it way down, and then if you're going to do that, what's the purpose of having the walkie-talkie?
Right.
Yeah. Right. So anyway, so that's been a change in the industry. People's kids now have these at their hands, and probably starting from, I don't know, 6, 7 years old, you're seeing some of these kids getting all this information. How do we handle that?
Well, I mean, you have to be careful. I wouldn't give it to a kid that young.
Right.
I mean, I'm not their parent, and a lot of times they do give them to them, but it's, you know, if you do, you have to be able to police it. Because they're going to go on everything, and they're going to download everything, and they're going to be on all these different forums and talking to all these people. And you know, that's one of the big things here is the trafficking that we have going on, and so you really got to be careful.
The traffic in Myrtle Beach specifically, right? I mean, I know that this has been one of those things, and I guess it happens all over the country, but that's been a problem.
It has, absolutely.
I heard about, you remember these J1 students, which one thing I'll say is these J1 students come in and you have these beautiful kind human beings who are there to help these students through, but there are also these other side of human beings who I've heard terrible stories from. The kids get off of the plane and a bus takes them to weird places, and we're not going to make the whole show about that today, but J1, that's a situation there, right?
Absolutely, and you want to be careful when you give that type of technology to kids that young. And also it becomes a babysitter to some extent, right?
Yeah.
Because we put an iPad in our kids' hands to watch TV or watch these videos, and we're not really paying attention to what they're watching, and next thing you know, they're getting fed on, and they're starting to use colorful language at the dinner table. I mean, right?
Right.
So, you got to have the correct parental controls, and if you don't know how to do it, find an expert that can help you do that.
Oh, that makes sense. Is that one of the things that your company helps with?
We do.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, I can imagine your business is only growing then with that kind of stuff. But let's go back to a little bit about the technology side of things and the whole era that we're in. I think about that subject matter that you just said. When does your technology start actually raising the kid a little bit? And they made a movie, I don't know if you saw this one, called Megan. It's supposed to be kind of a scary movie, but the premise was this: you have an AI that is so lifelike that it's actually raising, in a sense, the kid, and there's the negatives of that. Other than parental controls, I mean, where do we go in 10 years from now? I mean, is it going to be worse, or do you think this is going to regulate somehow?
Well, I mean, I don't want to scare everyone, but
no, scare us. We love this on the Leader Mentality Show.
Well, I mean, the problem is you have all these smart devices, right? Now that and you're in the construction industry, so you have smart switches and like all these smart houses, and all of those devices have what?
Oh, they're listening, right? That's a problem.
They don't have any protection.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they can be attacked and used for other things in the future.
Wow.
So, and they're all built on a Linux platform, which is another type of operating system.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be impenetrable, but you know as well as I do that that's not ever the case. Nothing is impenetrable. But so we have some things in the works where we're trying to come up with a solution for that, to be able to put some sort of a antivirus or something on there to help protect these smart devices. So.
I think the inevitable solution is landlines, back to hardwiring everything.
Yeah, right.
It's funny
the book with all your passwords.
right. We're going back to phone books and all that stuff. Yeah. No, but short of that, I mean, these are real world considerations, and I feel like a lot of us, it's kind of like ignorance is bliss to an extent. Hey, we're going through life, and as long as it doesn't happen to us, we don't worry about it that much, right?
Right.
And it's not until that first time that something bad happens to you that you're like, oh, now we need to get all the protection. But I'd say that's the same thing as if you're using the construction analogy. You've got a beachfront house, you don't have any storm protection for your windows. The hurricane comes and wipes you out, and now you're ready to go out and start buying your storm protection. It's like, don't wait until then.
We want you to be proactive, and that's what we preach and teach, and that's what we do. We're out there and we're teaching the employees of these businesses what to do and what not to do, what to click on and what, because look, these phishing emails they're really good.
They're getting more sophisticated.
They're very sophisticated, and if you don't know what you're looking for, it's easy for one of your employees to click the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And bam, all your files are encrypted and you can't do anything.
It amazes me that people will see, like, this happens all over the place. You get a supposed email from your quote unquote boss, and the boss is saying something to the effect of, hey, I need you to go deposit this money in this account.
Right.
But the cadence of the way the boss doesn't talk isn't right. And I'm always amazed, like, people really bought it, but it happens, which gets me into, you being in the business you're in, you're dealing with employees every single day. You're training people every day. How, out of 10 people, let's take out of 10 people that you meet, how many do you figure are actually sophisticated with understanding, what they need to know when it comes to protecting themselves on the computers?
How many of the 10?
Yeah, how many out of 10?
On the probably 1 in 10.
1 in 10. So 9 in 10 are really underprepared.
Yeah, well, so look, privacy is the tax that we pay for technology. And so, I mean, that's really the only way you can look at it, because if you want to use technology, you're going to pay with some form of privacy.
Right.
Whether it's the phone listening in, or the TV listening in, or Alexa listening in, or whatever. All of these different things. And so you have to protect, so like you have an alarm system in your house.
Yep.
And it's important to have that because you want to protect the stuff that's inside the house. And you want to know if somebody breaks in, and you have these different layers of security, because if somebody gets past the alarm, or even a sign in your yard, right? That'll deter a couple people, right?
Yeah.
But then you have the people that, they'll go in, they'll set the alarm off, and then you have a dog, maybe that's a whole nother layer of security.
Right.
And then you have you in the back with a shotgun, right? So that's the final layer of
That's
security.
the whole layer.
But that's what you need with your data is just as important, and maybe even more important to some extent than the people in your house, because that is you. Your identity can be taken. And so you have to be proactive, and I can't preach it enough. I preach it a lot, but I feel like I can't preach it enough. And it really is serious.
So, the analogy, if you play that analogy through, it kind of works like this in my mind. You keep out the honest people with the honest stuff, right? When you have the lock on the door, okay, we're keeping out the honest people. Now, the honest thieves, for that oxymoron, right? And then you get to the people who are more sophisticated, and that's what's terrifying.
Yep.
I was reading something. I'd love to do a little fact checking on this, and if you will, I was reading in a article online, and they said that quantum computers are advancing so quickly in technology that we don't have encryption programs that can keep up with them. What are your thoughts about quantum computers and where we're going?
Well, that's a slippery slope.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think they're coming whether we like them or not. There are a lot of good things that can come from that, but there's also a lot of bad things. Anything that can be used for good, this as well as I do, can be used for bad.
Yeah.
But quantum computing is great because it's super fast. The problem with it is that it's kind of like, unfortunately, in this area, and I hate to use this analogy because you're in the building industry.
Sure.
But, unfortunately, in this area, we want to build all of these housing developments, and then maybe later we'll make the road bigger.
Yeah.
So that's the same kind of thing as what I'm saying with quantum computing.
Fair enough.
Right?
I feel what you're laying down.
We're building these great computers that can do all of these great things, but we don't have the roads to support it and protect it.
The roads to protect it, does that come through governmental intervention? I mean, is that where we're headed with that stuff?
Ultimately, it's a game, right? It's a chess match. So I'm the good guy and the hacker's the bad guy, right?
Yeah.
And he comes up with something and then I'm stopping it, and then he comes up with something and I'm stopping it.
Right.
So how do we break that rat race? And how we break it is with application whitelisting. And so, unfortunately, regular antivirus is reactive.
Oh, yeah,
So
sure.
something gets on your computer and it reacts to it. But ultimately, the key to cybersecurity is to not let it get on your computer to begin with.
Right.
And so our programs that we use do application whitelisting, so it learns all the applications on your computer that you're using.
Yeah.
And it blocks out, nothing else can run.
Okay.
Except for these things.
Except for those. So it's a little more restrictive.
It's a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's kind of going towards the proactive versus something that's reactive.
Okay.
Reacting to something. So it's, just got to be careful out there.
I've always been curious about what you do in these situations. What do you do when you get the ultimate ransomware? I've heard about this for years. You come into your computer at some point, and this usually, I think, happens to the larger organizations, but you come into your computer, and apparently there's some kind of a screen or something, and maybe you can paint the picture better than I am, but it says, basically you're locked out, and to get back in, you're going to need to pay X amount of dollars. I don't know if it's quite that.
It does, and it happens to any size business. It happens to people, because what are they doing? The hackers are putting out a big net, right? And whoever's going to get caught in that net, but they're not specifically looking for Rob Clemens and Carolina Bay's construction or real estate. They're not saying I'm going to target him, but what they are targeting is the security holes in your network or in your devices. And so that's where you need to have a professional come in and say, okay, these are the holes and these are the issues, and we need to fix them. Understood.
What's the number one mistake you see people doing?
Not doing anything.
Not doing anything, right?
I mean, really and truly. You got to train your employees, because you're only as good as them. Because you can't stand there and hold your employees' hands and say, here, don't click on this or click on this or don't click on that. So what are you doing to protect yourself? You're not thinking about it because you're trying to run your business.
Yeah.
But if something like that happened, I can tell you it happened in Georgetown to a construction company, and they lost. She called me. And she called me and she was in tears, and she said, I don't know what happened, but I lost $100,000. It was wired out of my bank account.
Good Lord.
And so I said, no problem. We'll come down and we'll run a test and see what's going on with it and see what we can do. She's like, can you get my money back? And I said, no, I cannot get your money back. I said, but what we could do is try to keep this from happening again. But by the time I'd gotten from Conway to Georgetown, they had already taken out another $100,000. And this has been a year and a half ago. She's still trying to fight to get that money back.
Lord,
but you know, in the real estate, when you're not real estate, but when you're in construction, you got to have money to be able to build these houses and turn them.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I don't want to see it happen to anybody at all. And so that's why it's important. And I'm kind of out there teaching people that, look, you got to be on your guard because, again, right, we're in an election year. We don't know what they're going to throw at us, unfortunately.
Sure. Well, Ryan, I thought you said you were going to come on the show and not terrify us.
I gave you forewarning. I said, and you're like, no, scare us.
I have to put a disclaimer on the show now. My gosh, no, that's funny stuff. Well, let's take a clue. Ryan, great information right off the bat. Tell me something about yourself then. How did you get into this? Did you always know you were going into the industry or was this something that happened upon you? Take us back to the beginning.
Well, so back in the day, before the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, there was another baseball team here. I don't know if you know this or not.
I did not know the story.
This is actually new news to
Okay.
you then.
Yeah.
So before it was the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, it was the Myrtle Beach Blue Jays.
Oh, okay.
And they played at Coastal Carolina at the stadium there. And I could ride my bike to the stadium.
Okay.
And so it was cool. And I kind of got a job there in the summertime, just working in the food stand or selling hot dogs or whatever.
Yeah.
And one day the manager came up to me and he's like, hey, I need you to be the mascot. And I'm like, I don't want to be the mascot because you like roasting this thing.
Yeah.
He kept talking and he's like, oh, you can meet women and da-da-da-da. And I'm like,
but you're in a mascot outfit, but okay, that's cool.
I'm a young kid, right? It's just like, whatever. And it was the funnest thing I ever did. And most people don't know that about me, that I was a Blue Jay.
Oh, they do now. You're right. And he was picking up women in mascot costumes somehow or another. Yeah.
And, well, my dad got this computer when I was younger, and it was an Atom computer. I don't know if you'd ever heard of them, but it ran off a tape.
Okay.
Like a cassette tape.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he would do kind of the books and things on it, but you could actually write code to make it do like Centipede or games and things like that. And so I found then that I really wanted to do something with this computer, even though it was really, really new. And so they had these classes at Coastal Carolina. They called it Young People's College. Okay. I don't even know if they still do it, but I spent a lot of time, the couple of years I took these classes, and they were all about introduction to computers and programming and all this stuff, and I just got really into it. And then high school came along, and girls came along, and you kind of sway a little bit from that. And I got a job running Spotlight at the Carolina Opry. Okay. And at that time, it was in Surfside.
The Carolina Opry. See, this ought to be a Myrtle Beach history lesson.
It is a history lesson.
It was in Surfside. Yes. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I've given you some new information.
I am. I'm learning.
And it was in Surfside. Yeah. And I think it's a golf cart place now. That the big building it was in. Yeah. And so obviously we outgrew that. We built the Opry in '92, the big Opry, and at that time I moved from Spotlight into more production management type
So you're
stuff.
Promoting up in the world of that.
Right, exactly. And then I somehow got pulled from that to the operations side, and I was doing all the servers and all the computers and all of that, and having to also produce a show. And Calvin's a great guy to work for, and I spent probably 20 years of my life doing that, and I enjoyed it. But then we had a kid in 2004. Okay. And so babies change everything, right? Yeah. And so my wife, she taught school, or she still teaches school, and I was working 6 nights a week. And really and truly, it's okay if you're younger and you're not have kids. You can work 6 nights a week. Sure. But when you're handing the kid off like a football, right, it becomes a family problem.
Fair enough.
I basically, on a hope and a prayer, started this little computer store in Conway. Okay. And people brought their computers in and their cell phones in, and we fixed them. And probably about 5 years ago, I started to pivot when technology is becoming more and more disposable, if you will. Right? Yeah. So the things that we buy, we use them and we toss them. We're not really doing a lot of fixing computers as much as we used to be, because computers were like $2,000-$3,000 for a little small computer back then.
Right,
so
right.
You couldn't afford to keep buying computers. You would fix them.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
And,
Well, it's like you don't fix TVs
Right,
anymore.
you
You
don't.
don't fix certain things. It's just cheaper to buy new, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's the society that we're in, and that's fine. But then security came into play, right? Mm-hmm. And so I went back to school, met with a guy, Bruce. He's a good friend of mine. I met him, and he's in Nashville. And he does penetration testing and cybersecurity for like big, huge organizations, hospitals and things like that. And so I kind of went under the tutelage of him for a year or so. And now we're partners where he actually goes in and runs a lot of these penetration tests for my clients and then shows me where the holes are, and then we go. And that's how we kind of stay on top of things, because things are ever changing.
He goes in and diagnoses, here's what the
Right.
issues are, and you're like the doctor in a sense. That's
Correct.
where the RX comes in. Now you're like, okay, you got this, this, and this. Here's how we're going to solve it.
Correct.
Okay, I got you.
And that's sort of, the way that we're going, and more of a proactive approach to things, because you can make technology last longer. You don't have to worry about, cyber threats and losing your data. And, you were talking about ransomware earlier, and it did happen in this area to the school district. I don't know if you remember that.
Wow. Yeah, I think I heard something
probably,
about that, right?
I want to say 7 or 8 years ago. And, they tried everything to get their files back. They ended up having to pay the ransom, which was like $40,000. And even then, there's a 50-50 chance as to whether or not you're going to get your stuff back. But they ended up getting theirs back. And then we had an accounting firm a couple years ago. They got ransomware, and the amount that they were asking for from ransom was the exact same amount that was in their bank account.
Oh, really? So,
and it's just like,
so they know information that goes deeper.
yeah.
Oh, gosh.
And again, I don't mean to scare you too.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's a scary topic, really.
No, that's fair. Well, no, it's fair. But, there's things people need to know about. I mean, look, you work so hard your whole life for whatever you have, and to have somebody come and take it, that's just not only ethically not good, but it's just something that we need to be cautious of. And just as cautious as, look, you take vitamins to try to stay healthy, you go to doctors, get checked up.
Right.
You need to get that done with your security system. From your career, what was the job you enjoyed doing the most? Not this one. It has to be either working with Gilmore or whatever. What was your favorite?
I think running the spotlight, I had a really good time, because it was, it was easy, and you didn't have a lot of thinking other than to know, when to turn it on and when to turn it off and what color to make it.
Right. There's a little brain work in there.
Right.
Did you ever meet anybody that in that Opry side of things that you were like, wow, this is really cool that I met them?
We had a lot of course, Carolina Opry is geared country.
Yes.
So we, at one time, we partnered with the Family Channel, which was a cable channel back in the day.
Sure.
For family kind of programming. And so they would rent our theater out on the weekends, and we would have Travis Tritt, some of the older guys come in there.
Yeah.
And perform, and you got to meet them, and it was
That's
really
pretty cool.
But I really enjoyed working there a lot. It was a fun time in my life, and sometimes I wish I could go back to that, because it would be simpler. But it's I feel like that what I'm doing now is much needed in the community, and people need someone they can turn to for help with this kind of stuff.
That's fair. I love that you talked about community. Going to your community aspirations, what are the things that you've kind of gotten involved with that have meant a lot to you and your business in helping the community?
So we partnered with the Theater of the Republic in Conway. We've done a couple of plays with them, sponsored some plays with them, and that's always a cool thing. And they always have sponsor night, so you get to preview the show and all that, and they give you a nice little plaque. And so it was really nice. Those are really nice things. We do a lot of work for the Coastline Women's Center.
Okay, nice.
And of course, again, we do a lot with nonprofits, but mostly it's about trying to get their message out. So if they're having an event like me and you were talking earlier before the show about some events maybe that you have coming up, that getting those people on to say, hey, this is what we're trying to do in our mission, and we have this event coming up, whether it be a dinner or a fundraiser or a motorcycle ride or whatever it is that you have going on. And so a lot of our listener base for our show is on Saturday mornings, and so people are at 10 o'clock.
It's a good time to be
driving
checking
around
and,
get out doing errands and things like that. And so it's always good to use that platform to help other people.
So you're talking about Tech Talk with
Talk.
Ryan Foultz.
Yep.
Well, you can check it out. And what station are we on?
94.5.
94.5. Check out Tech Talk with Ryan Foultz, and I definitely think that's a good thing to be doing. You know, one thing I thought about is you talked about you've been in Conway. You did something on a wish and a prayer, or a hope and a prayer years ago, and it's grown from 2007 to 2024. So it was a heck of a wish and a prayer right there for you. Conway's come up a lot in those years.
Well, you asked about some things that meant a lot to me, and when I first was getting started, I partnered with an organization that was called Conway Main Street at the time, and it evolved to Conway Downtown Alive. And what we noticed was a lot of the storefronts were empty, and this was probably 10 or 12 years ago. And so I got on the board, and I was the president for probably, I've been off for 2 years, so about 5 or 6 years before that. And so we revitalized all the parks. It's a funny story that we had this extra grant one year, and we decided that for Halloween we were going to put pumpkins in the trees.
Oh yeah, that's a big deal.
It is now,
Yeah.
but it wasn't then. The first year, like, people were calling me and they're like, "Why did you do this?" And I'm like, "Because it's cool." And they're like, "Well, these things are going to fill up with water and fall in my car."
I was about to say,
like, seriously, you don't think we drilled holes in the bottom of it?
Yeah, right. Come on, guys, give us a little credit. But in fairness, you probably looked a little crazy there. You're just hanging a bunch of pumpkins and trees. So yeah,
people thought I was crazy, but it's now it's a big thing, and lots of other things have come from that. So.
Conway is cool. You know, like I will say this. You know, Conway has become a very cool, quaint little tourist attraction. And when you go there during the holidays, there's nothing quite like it. It's that old town feel, but
Small
you have
town, yep.
but you know, you go in and they've decorated the town in just such a way, and I love that about that place. So everybody, if you're listening, you're not from the area, come down and check out Conway, South Carolina. Good place to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. We want to talk a little bit about AI today, and we talked about ways to stay ahead of that, and so let's get to that in 1 minute. We've covered a lot of topics today. We've talked about everything from technology, things to be worried about, where we're headed in the future. But we start off the show talking about AI, and I think that it's important for you as a person that's really in the business and you know a lot about what's happening to talk about what it is, where it's going, but more than anything, you know, how businesses need to be interacting with AI. So I'll kind of open up the floor to you to give us some good tips.
Well, I think from AI perspective, people are scared of technology, especially the older folks. And so they're not as apt to try to use any of that. But I would say if you own a business, no matter what age you are, you should really be looking at some of these AI tools because they could save you tons and tons of time. And I know you and I have kind of talked at different places in different times about you used a couple of different tools in your business. And so I feel like that you may be missing the boat a little bit if you don't start adopting some of the things that actually do work well. Now, a lot of AI doesn't work well. We've seen that because Google's now renamed theirs 4 times.
Is that true? They've actually...
because when you would put something in there, it either leaned right or left, or you'd ask it for one thing and it'd give you another thing. And so, again, it's in its infancy. But there are some great things that it can do, especially for business owners, because I'm not a big fan of social media, but I feel like we have to do it as business owners, and so there's lots of ways to sort of shortcut that. Making blogs and putting blogs on your website, and then using those blogs as social media posts to draw people to your website, and maybe to use some of that to maybe get leads, or maybe to get business, or to even to introduce your business to other people.
And the AI is doing this.
The AIs can actually... It's very sophisticated. It can actually write a blog post. It can actually publish it to your website for you.
Wow.
And then it can take that blog post and turn it into a year's worth of social media posts.
My God, that's amazing. And
it saves you like so much, because you'd have to do all this manually.
It takes forever. You know, look, I tell people we should still be blogging. I know it sounds like a relic of the early 2000s, but you need to do it because we need to be populating our websites with relevant content. You just have to do it. But it's one of my least favorite things to do as a business owner.
Yeah, right.
It just takes so long, and then you're like, I already talked about this to people. But if you had AI out there generating it, are there free programs that you found that are efficient? And feel free to share.
Not any that are free, but there are quite a few that are relatively inexpensive, $20 to $30 a month or so. But the amount of time it saves you is well worth probably 3 times that.
Right. Give me one good AI that you think that people should look at, and we're not, we're not recommending anything, but just is there an AI that you're like, man, that one's spot on, keep your eye on it?
Well, I mean, the things that we were just talking about. So if you're interested in writing, having, looking at this to write some blog posts, look at Content Studio.
Okay.
It's really cheap. And then the other part to that, where it makes it for you and then posts it onto your social media posts, and it makes like a year's worth of them. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you have to do a little bit of manual input.
Yeah.
You can't just let it do everything.
Right.
But it does save you, like it comes up with the prompts and the topics and all of these cool things. And that one's called Missing Letter.
Missing Letter.
Yeah,
okay.
That one's, I think, $29 or $30 a month. So it's, between the two, you might spend $50 a month or so. But
my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be well worth it.
The amount of time you save is just incredible.
Well, as long as you're, and you monitor your stuff, people. Don't let your AI go out of control.
Don't just let it go out on its own.
Oh.
You got to really double check things and make sure that it's in your voice.
Well, no doubt. I mean, it does have to make sense. Well, so those are a couple of great tips. I mean, that alone is enough for me to say that, there's some value on what you're giving us there, because there's a lot of questionable AI out there. I've got a question for you, and I'm going to run into, we're talking about how it can help your business. You gave a couple of fantastic tips right there, just the blogging and then the auto post to the social media. What is this thing that I see online? Sometimes you'll see it on TikTok or you'll see reels about it, but it'll say AI made a, it morphed two things and made, a combination of Batman and the Flash, or it does this kind of stuff. What is that stuff? Have you seen it? And how's it happening?
Those are called AI prompts.
Okay.
And so there are different programs out there that you can utilize prompts. Mm-hmm. And so you might, I don't know even a great example because I don't really use it all that much, but you could say dancing girl on a mountain with blue hair and white skin or whatever, and it creates this image.
Okay, that's pretty awesome.
It is pretty cool. Again, it's in its infancy and it takes a little bit of time, but even cooler than that, if you were to do ads, right? Mm-hmm. So we all have to do ads in our business, but there's a program where you could put your URL for your website in there, and it will make the ads for you.
Oh,
from
God,
your URL.
that's so good.
It's
oh,
really
man.
Cool.
Wow, that's really cool stuff. That's one that I think that businesses should check out. I mean, honestly, it's so hard to come up with the ad content, and I believe in being original. We always want to have new stuff, and if you're a business owner out there, don't just copy everybody else. You want to have something new.
Absolutely.
But don't copy everybody else. Use AI to make yourself. That's always sound a little weird, right? But well, good stuff, Ryan. Before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you a question because a lot of times people come on this show and they have great ideas for us. I also have a question though, which is books. Do you have any books you recommend or anything are you a reader?
I'm a writer.
You're a writer,
I'm
okay.
a writer. So, yeah.
Very cool.
I wrote a book about cybersecurity. I call it Welcome to the Jungle.
Welcome to the Jungle.
Yes.
What was I mean, this is a corny joke, but did Axl Rose write the foreword for you?
It's in there.
right.
Yeah, it's in there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so the book is all about some of the things we've talked about today.
A lot of the things we talked about. So basically I took my show, right, and I brought it into segments because the shows have segments. Mm-hmm. And so you take a segment and you put it in the book. Mm-hmm. And eventually you have a book.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. You get more and more ideas, and I think that's great. Well, and what's the name of the book again?
Welcome to the Jungle.
All right. Well, hey, look, a lot of good information, Ryan. I'm looking forward to being on your show.
Absolutely.
Check out Tech Talk, and it comes out on 94.5 Saturday mornings at 10 a.m.
And Sundays at 6 a.m.
And Sundays at 6 a.m. if you're an early riser. Mm-hmm. And how else can people find you, Ryan?
PCRXcomputers.com. You can find out all about me there.
All right, perfect. Or go down and see him in Conway. Check out those pumpkins and check them out. Ryan,
right,
welcome to the show.
Yep.
I appreciate you being on. And I do want to leave off with a couple of things, too, for you. I know you're a community guy. Yeah. Come out on March 27th. We'll be at the Beachfront Kitchen and Bar. We are doing a fundraiser for Kind Keeper. We always have a Pet of the Week with Kind Keeper, but this is an agenda to help raise some money. So the way it works, come out, you get the spaghetti milk. meal anytime on the 27th, and $10 per meal will be raised for the Kind Keeper facility. It's a no-kill pet facility. Your money will be well spent. I always like to look at it. It's a two-way good. Number one, you get good food because Beachfront Kitchen and Bar is always killing it there, and you're just buying a meal for yourself, but $10 of that meal is going right back to Kind Keeper. So
it's important. Absolutely. I love animals.
Man, come on out and join us, Ryan. Bring your whole team. And we'll hope to see you guys all there. And for you guys listening to the show, we appreciate you being here. Make sure to check out the leader list, some of the best leadership companies in Myrtle Beach. And we'll see you all next time on the Leader Mentality Show with Rob Clemens.